All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Victor Bribiesca. I'm with the Small Business Administration here at the Fresno District Office. Again, thank you so much for the invite and the opportunity to go ahead and present to you all the different certifications that we can offer. At the end of the presentation, I will be sharing the new update that we'll be having for certifications to make it easier for you, and what's going to happen in the month of August, which is very, very important, especially if you're trying to get these certifications as we speak. So with that, let's get started. Um, as you all know, the federal government is always and has been the largest buyer in the world for products and for services. The way that we purchase is full and open competition, meaning that you will compete against other businesses across the nation and including other businesses from other parts of the world as well. We also have small business set-asides, and we'll be talking about those here in just a moment. And last but not least, sole source, meaning that the government is looking to purchase from a specific company or for a specific population of companies, and they will give that contract directly to that business without any competition whatsoever. And so when you can also consider trying to do business with the government, let's look at subcontracting. The best part about subcontracting is, number one, you're not bidding against anybody else. Number two, it allows you to increase the capacity. In other words, if you get a subcontract with the prime, you have the ability now to prove to the government, add it to your resume that you're capable of delivering on large contracts. There's different ways to work with primes. You have teaming agreements, joint ventures, mentor proteges. So there's numerous things that you can do in order to do subcontracting with these large primes. Last but not least, you want to enhance your past performance. When we look at small businesses and contracting, we want to make sure that, one, you're able to perform on the contract. Number two, you have the staff or ability to get the staff in order to perform the contract. And number three, you want to make sure that if we do give you this large contract, that you're able to administer the funding accordingly. Believe it or not, the government doesn't always look for the cheapest or the most affordable prime contractors when it comes to any type of government contracting. A lot of the times, small businesses will say, well, the government is asking for $4 million to perform XYZ. I'm going to bid it at 3.5 or 3.2. When we look at all those bids coming in and we see it that low, we're concerned because we know for a fact that you're not going to be able to produce or perform at a 3.2 or a 3.5 contract. And so we're always going to go forward with the ones that are bidding at 4 or a little bit more than 4 of what we're asking. So in this particular case, when you're doing subcontracting, you gain the experience, and more importantly, you expand the opportunities. You're able to meet the contracting officers, the ones that give the actual prime contracts. And now you're getting this, you're getting the networking done that you need in order for your business to grow within the contracting community. So how do you consider yourself a small business? Number one, we look at business size standards. It's determined by the NAICS code, and the industry codes, the NAICS codes, are the ones that determine whether or not you're a small business. How do we do this? We look at different portions of your business. Number one, it can be the actual income or the actual sales of your business. Manufacturing, especially, are looking at the size of employees. And other than that, we look at other considerations, whether you're a minority, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a women-owned small business, and we look at all those things. But for the most part, on sizes, we're always going to look at the NAICS code. The other thing we look at is business types, so proprietorships, partnerships, corporations. One thing in contracting, whether it be state or federal, your business should want to be in an LLC, LLP, or a corporation. Sole proprietorships are very, very difficult, only because all the weight of that prime contract will fall on the owner of the business. And so what we want to protect you, and we want to protect your business. So the best thing to do, especially if you're trying to get into some sort of contracting, is to look at partnerships, LLCs, LLPs, or corporation, S or corporation. See, whatever is best for your business. Locations, again, we want to make sure that you primarily function within the US or its territories. It can be Guam, it could be Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. There are contracts in all those areas, including Alaska. So we want to make sure that if you're a contractor here in California and you're trying to bid on a contract out in Guam, do you have the ability and capacity to get your folks out in Guam and make sure that the job is done? As I mentioned, size restrictions, average number of employees or receipts, primary operations outside of the US for some contracts are definitely disqualified. Last but not least, nonprofits are not considered for government contracting. The reason being is that nonprofit businesses, for the most part, are able to apply for grants versus contracts. The set-aside programs are based on socioeconomic categories, such as a women-owned small business. There is another category under women-owned small business, which is economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. There's also 8A certified small businesses, HUBZone small businesses, and service-disabled or non-service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. All of these categories are able to get set-asides as well as sole sources under $5 million should you decide to go through with this type of certification. So let's talk about the different types of certifications. We're going to talk about first the women-owned small business and the economically disadvantaged women-owned small businesses. There are very, very minor differences, and we'll talk about those here in a bit. So the first thing is, one, you have to be a small business according to the small business site standards. Again, we use the NAICS codes. You can always send us an email here at Fresno, send an email to the Small Business Development Center in SLO. Then they can send you the link to where you can get the NAICS code and look at what your primary function of your business is. Number two, be at least 51% owned and controlled by a woman who is a U.S. citizen. This is something that's very, 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 very important for both the EDWSB as well as the WOSB, because we have had small businesses come to us and say, hey, Vic, I want my wife to have 51% owner of the business. Can we do that and qualify for the WSB? Yes, you can. However, is she going to be in control of the business? In other words, is she going to be doing the administration? Is she going to be doing the hiring and firing? Does she experience or the licenses or the knowledge to run this business should you are not able or available to provide these types of services to your business? And so if the answer is no, they do not qualify, even though the female is 51% or more ownership of the business. The other question we do get under this particular point is, can a female be the owner of the business at 51% and have multiple other owners at less than 51? The answer is yes, you can. You do have to show it in your partnership agreements as well as in your articles of incorporation, the amount which each owner has of the business. Last but not least, have women manage day-to-day operations who also make long-term decisions. As I mentioned previously, it has to have control of the business. If that women owner at 51% or more does not have that license, does not have that experience, and only does the administration or clerical work for the business, then there's going to be questions, and therefore you might have the certification revoked, or you may not qualify for that particular certification. And this goes the same for the state certification program under small business. Very, very important, again, that the control of that business is given to the woman. Otherwise, you won't qualify. Now, one of the things under WOSB and EDWSB, which I mentioned, the differences is that under EDWSB, or economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, the personal net worth of that 51% or more female that owns the business must have a net worth of assets of 850,000 or less. Now, as far as the assets, a lot of the questions that we get, what about the primary residence? The primary residence is not included in the personal net worth of this particular, for this particular certification. So if you have $1 million house, a $2 million house, it is not included in the personal net worth of 850,000 or less. Second, you must have a 3-year average income of $450,000 or less. And we will be asking for documentation on all of these. So you must have your tax records ready to go, both the company as well as the personal. So we're going to take a look at that and make sure that you do fit within those guidelines. And last but not least, the fair market value of all assets is 6.5 million or less. Again, this does not include your primary residence. So keep that in mind. Can you apply for both? Absolutely, you can. We actually recommend that you apply for both if you do qualify for both. And it's all under the same application. Now, this particular page here, I'm not going to really get into, only because it's going to change, as I mentioned earlier. At the end of the presentation, I will tell you about the new portal that's going to open and how you're going to be able to do that in August. Now, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat if you have the chat availability. If not, please hold your questions at the end so we can go ahead and get those questions answered.
Victor, there is one
Yes.
quick question in the Q&A. Somebody asked, are there any set-asides for disabled non-vet?
No, not for disabled non-vet.
Thank you.
Now, there is an opportunity to go through a third party person or agency that can help you get the certification for women-owned small business or economically disadvantaged women-owned small business only. Okay, this does not apply to any other certifications that I'm going to be mentioning here in this presentation today, only for the WSB or the EDWSB. The approved third-party certifiers are the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the National Women's Business Owners Corporation, U.S. Business Chamber of Commerce, or the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Now, these 4 agencies do charge a fee, so keep that in mind. They will charge a fee. The fees vary depending on the organization, so I do not know how much each organization charges. But we do recognize the certifications through them. One thing I will say is those certifications, in order for you to prove to the federal government that you are certified, even if you're using a third-party certifier, you're still going to have to do the application on the portal in order for the federal government to recognize it. So it's double work plus fees, but if that's your choice, please use these 4 only, and then get those certifications uploaded into our portal so that when the contracting officer looks at the portal, they can see that you are certified under these 4, and you're also in our portal here at the SBA. So the next certification program that I want to present on is the 8A Business Development Program. This program is very, very, very good when it comes to small businesses and you wanting to grow or scale your business within the I would say government contracting world, not just the federal government contracting world. It is a 9-year program, which is awesome, but we're going to get into the qualifications as we speak. So the first thing is you have to be designated a socially disadvantaged group. The designated groups for the 8A program are the Black Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Subcontinent Asian American. For these particular groups, you definitely do have to check the box and make sure you're part of that designation. They will be asking for more information as to, the type of designation that you fall under. If you're Native American, they will be asking for your proof of tribe. I guess that's what they use. I'm sorry if I messed this up, but I know they do ask for the ID card that you have for the tribe. And so there are other additional documents that you're going to have to provide in order for you to prove that. Number two, non-designated group criteria. You have to show preponderance of evidence that you are socially disadvantaged. Race, ethnicity, gender, physical handicap, which is a question that you asked here in a bit, Madison. Long-term environmental issues, chronic and substantial negative impact to business advancement. In other words, if you don't fall under the designated groups above, number one, and you fall under the non-designated group criteria on number two, you will have to provide a lot more evidence to show that you are socially disadvantaged as for your business, not you as a person, but your business is socially disadvantaged in order for you to qualify for government contracts. I'll give you an example, and I'll use the question that Madison asked. If someone is handicapped, physically handicapped, they're the owner of the business at 51% or more. Can you prove and show and demonstrate that your business has been adversely affected when you're applying or bidding to any type of government contract because of your handicap? And that's where the preponderance of evidence comes in. Do you have that proof? And so in order for you to qualify for this particular program, you will have to provide more documentation and more proof to demonstrate that you are and have been socially disadvantaged. If you don't fall under the non-designated group and you fall under the designated groups, again, you just have to show that you fall under that group and you're ready to go. The other portion of this, I mentioned socially, now we're talking about economically. The first thing is a personal net worth of less than $850,000. Again, what it does include is your personal net worth excludes equity in the business, personal primary residence, as I mentioned, for the women-owned small business, funds reinvested in an IRA or other legitimate retirement accounts. So your net does not include your primary residence, does not include your retirement accounts, and does not include your equity in the business. So 850,000 or less in personal net worth. 3-year average income is $400,000 or less. We will be asking for documentation on that. And last but not least, the fair market value of all assets must be at 6.5 or less. So very, very important. Last but not least, you do have to be at least 2 years in business of which you want to apply for. I understand that there's small businesses that do contracting, for example, general A contractors. You do everything, plumbing, construction, landscaping, and whatnot. But there are businesses that primarily focus in a trade. Like, for example, if your business primarily focuses on framing a house or framing a business buildings, and now you want to get into general A, and you're going to go for your general A. Well, what we require is that you have at least 2 years in business in that particular trade or business trade that you want to get into. So if you've been in business for 1 year in framing and now you want to get into general A, where you have to wait 2 years in order for you to qualify for that. Now, what we can do is we can waive the 2-year rule if you have the business management experience. For example, again, if you're a framer, but you've worked with general A contractors, we can waive that. You have the technical expertise, you have the adequate capital to support that. And of course, we want to look at successful past performance. When we look at past performance, we're not always looking for the small contracts, but we're looking for the governmental contracts or large agency or large business contracts work as well, such as city contracts, for example, county contracts, or PG&E, AT&T, any type of those large business, large corporation contracts work as well. Last but not least, ability to meet the requirements. As I mentioned, it's not just about capital. We're looking at staff, but we're also looking at the administration of the funding. We're looking for the business as a whole. Can you meet those requirements under that particular contract? Now, before the application starts, and again, when you look at the certified.sba.gov, please excuse me. This is an old presentation. We just got the new information 2 weeks ago, so we haven't had time to update this. Let's remove that for the moment. Do not look at certified.sba.gov. I'll be talking about that here in a bit at the end of this presentation. So before the application, just like the women-owned small business, you got to identify your NAICS code, and you have to register with SAM, the System for Awards Management. Believe it or not, that is the federal government's portal for any type of government contracting. So if you're looking to do federal government contracting and federal only, you have to go through systemforawardsmanagement.gov or sam.gov, and you can register there and get the process started. It's very, very easy. It does take time at about 45 minutes to an hour 20 if you have all the documents that you need to register with SAM. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Secondly, you apply for the certification. You make sure you review the application guide, you gather the supporting documentation, and then you go online and you start working on the application online. And last but not least, there are resources available on our knowledge base through sba.gov. Additionally, if you need assistance, the portal will have a number in which you can contact the reviewers for the 8A program. You can contact us here at the SBA. You can also contact our partners at the San Luis Obispo Small Business Development Center. They can help you with the preparation for certification under the 8A. The next certification I want to talk about is going to be the HUBZone certification. This certification in particular is kind of tricky because it does involve a map. It involves territory, and so we'll talk about that and how that affects you as a business and how it affects the people that you hire. So again, the very first and the most important thing is, number one, you have to have 51% or more ownership of the business. As you can see, the common denominator in this certification is if you're the owner, you have to have at least 51% ownership of that particular business. We do have businesses come to us that say, well, Vic, I have a partner. That partner is 50-50. Do we qualify? The answer is no. One of the partners have to have 51%, while the other partner has to have 49%. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these certifications. Number two, you have to be located in a hub zone. This is where I mentioned it shows a map and there's a territory. For the hub zone locations, you can go to sba.gov, type in your address, and we will tell you yes or no whether or not your physical location, not your PO box, but your physical location of the office is located within the hub zone. That's the very first thing that you need to do when it comes to the hub zone. Number three, 35% employee requirement. We'll be talking about that here in a bit. You must meet the SBA size standards. Again, we use the NAICS codes for this. And last but not least, there is no minimum time in business. So if you just started today and you want to make sure you're in a hub zone, you can do that today. And if you're going to hire employees, you can do that today as well, and you can qualify for the hub zone. The benefits, the government limits competition. Again, just like the previous two certifications, there are set-asides for HUBZone plus a 10%. So in other words, let's say Madison and I, we own business, we're in the same area, same field. We're generally contractors, and we want to bid on a contracting bid or solicitation. She's going under women-owned small business. I'm going in as veteran-owned small business, but I'm also HUBZone, and so I get that 10% price valuation preference in full and open contract competitions, as you see there on point number 4. HUBZone certified businesses also get that 10% price evaluation preference for full and open contract competitions. HUBZone certified businesses can still compete for contract awards under all other socioeconomic programs that you may qualify for. So the eligibility requirements, as I mentioned, the first thing is the 51% are owned by the owner. And the owner does have to be a U.S. citizen. U.S. citizenship also falls in requirement for the 8A program and the women-owned small businesses. Number 2, the principal office, as I mentioned, the physical location of that office must be located in a HUBZone, which I mentioned, www.sba.gov. Type in your address and it'll tell you if you're in a HUBZone. Now, this is the one that is very tricky. 35% of employees must live within a HUBZone. So again, let's use that example. Madison is a contractor. She wants to hire me. She has to go into sba.gov through that map, type in my home address, and make sure that I do live in the HUBZone. If I do live in the HUBZone and she hires me, she can qualify, or her business can qualify for HUBZone. Business size standards, again, we use the NAICS codes, and last but not least, you always want to check the HUBZone map. And this is where the trickiness comes in. The HUBZone map tends to change every 3 years. So if this year Madison's business is in the HUBZone and she checks next year and the HUBZone moved, she might not qualify anymore because her business is not in the HUBZone. Even though she hired me and I do live in a HUBZone, she loses this certification. Same thing for the employee requirements. She hires me. I was in a HUBZone. The HUBZone moved and it changed. Now I'm not in a HUBZone. She can lose the certification if her at least 35% of her employees do not live in that particular HUBZone. So very, very important. Always check the HUBZone map, especially when it comes to the third year that you've been in this program. I recommend checking it every year just to make sure. For support or assistance with the HUBZone, you can always visit our partners. We also have information on the HUBZone website, sba.gov/HUBZone. It talks about the requirements. It gives you the map, the location, eligibility. More importantly, it gives you the contact information for the HUBZone team, which is, you see it there at the bottom. But more importantly, it gives you the ability to apply for the HUBZone and make sure you get that application in the first time rather than sending piecework to the certifiers for your certification. How to apply, again, as I mentioned, you have to have a sam.gov account, and this goes for all certifications. You want to register your business in SAM.gov, the System for Awards Management, because that is our yellow pages for the government, if you will, for the federal. We cannot go out through Google and say, hey, I'm looking for a general aid contractor to help me build this particular building. I need a general aid contractor to build XYZ. We cannot do that, unfortunately. So what we do is we use sam.gov and we look at, and then from there we type in a general aid contractor, and that's how we get our listing if we decide to do a sole source contract. All our contracts are in that particular website. So again, very important that you register for that before you do anything that's presented to you. You want to get into sam.gov. Secondly, you want to make sure that you are in the HUBZone. Your address, your physical location for your business is in the HUBZone. And then from there, once you do that, you can start forward with the HUBZone certification process, and which we'll talk about here in a bit. Gather all your supporting documentation, and last but not least, you want to make sure that your SAM registration is active in SAM before you start the process of eligibility. Now, the good news about SAM is that you do not have to have a Dun & Bradstreet number or a DUNS number to go through SAM. We used to require that you have a DUNS number before you register with SAM, and that changed a little bit because DUNS was taking a long time to give you that number. So now it's not required, which is really, really, really good. Our next and last certification that we do have are service and non-service disabled veteran-owned small businesses. The eligibility is very, very simple. Again, as you see in all these certifications, the common denominators are pretty much the same. 51% or more ownership of the business must be owned and controlled by one or more veterans whose military service can be by the Veterans Administration. We do not take DD-214s only because the VA, if you're a veteran, you will know, the VA will issue you a letter of disability. And that is what you're going to need in order for you to confirm that you are a service disabled veteran. Service disabled veterans must have no less than 51% ownership. As per your articles of incorporation or LLC, LLP agreements, again, they has to show that 51, and we do require that acknowledgement by the VA in order for you to qualify. Another common denominator is the NAICS code and the registration in SAM. So how does a business apply? We'll be talking about that here in a bit, but the most important thing in all the certifications is that you have your documentation ready, you register in SAM, and then you check your NAICS code before you do any type of application process online. The Vet Cert program, we'll be talking about that here in a bit, only because, as I mentioned, things have changed. And so I'll skip that. But if you do have any questions, here is my contact information and the contact information for us at Fresno District Office. You can send us an email, fresno@sba.gov. Everybody receives this email, so you always have somebody to respond to you. Follow us on all the social media where we do share all of the most latest and greatest information on certifications, webinars, and other important information for small businesses, including loans. Last but not least, if you have any questions, please let me know. Well, before that, before we get to the questions, Madison, let me stop sharing here real quick and let me share the updates.
Yeah, no problem. There's a few questions, excuse me, a few questions in the Q&A. So whenever you're ready for those, I can read them off to you.
Awesome. Okay, so let's pull this up here. Please bear with me. Thank you for your patience. So on August 1st, well, this thing is loading here. All right, here we go. All right. So on the certification upgrades and updates, we will be upgrading how the system works. So on August 1st, our system will shut down. So if you do have certified.sba.gov, we will be shutting that down completely for the month of August. We will not accept any new certification applications. But that does not mean that we will stop processing those applications that are already in our portal. All that means is that if you're new, especially those of you that are on the presentation here today and you have not applied for any of these certifications, it's a perfect time and opportunity to gather all your documents, to review all your documents, and make sure that you do have all the documents required for the application process when this opens up again. The system is expected to be open again in early September. As I mentioned, it's going to take about a month, so the whole month of August is going to be shut down. New and prospective applicants for the Federal Small Business Certification Program are encouraged to wait. Yeah, I mean, we really don't have any choice, right? There's no system to go into. Most certified firms will not be impacted. Again, if you are already certified or already in the process of certification, you will not be impacted through this period. Again, applications submitted before August 1st will continue to be processed while the upgrade is in order. And last but not least, if you do have a deadline for a proposal, for a bid, or for a solicitation, and your certification status has not been approved, please feel free to give us a call at the Fresno District Office or send an email, certifications.sba.gov, so you can get that confirmation before the due date of that particular bid or solicitation. So that's going to be the new update. The good news about this is that this new system will allow the applicants to use one portal, and you can apply for multiple certifications all at once rather than going from the WSB portal or the veteran portal back to the 8A portal. It's just we're combining and putting all the portals together to make it one simple task. And hopefully, as we progress, this portal will also give you your loan information, your EIDL, and any other any other service or product that you have with the SBA. And this will continue as we proceed with this massive upgrade that the SBA is doing. So with that, Madison, now we can go to questions. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
patience.
Yeah, thank you so much for the updates, Victor. So the first question is from Nancy. Once certification is met, what are you eligible for?
Thank you, Nancy, for the question. It all depends on the certification. Once you're eligible for the certification and you do have your certification, the very first thing that we always tell our small businesses, number one, put it on all your marketing material, whether it be your pamphlets, whether it be your brochures, business cards, websites, social media, that you are certified under that particular certification. Number two, when you do apply for a solicitation or a bid, they will always state that there is a set aside there for a particular certification, or what it's going to do, it's going to give you that upper hand when you're competing against other small businesses. As I mentioned previously, Madison has a construction General A certification for her business. I have a General A certification for my business, but she's a women-owned small business. I am not. Therefore, she will have that upper hand over me, even though we're bidding for the same contract. So certifications do give you that upper hand. Number two, this is for federal. But if you do apply for a state or local government contracting, it will still give you the upper hand because they do recognize the certifications that we have on the federal side.
Great, thank you. And the next question is from Josh. And they ask, in terms of qualifying for designated disadvantaged groups, what if you are mixed race?
Oh, that's not a problem. All you have to do is pick one that best describes you. For example, if you're Asian and African or Black, which one is the one that you dominate the most? Is it going to be the Asian or is it the Black? Either way, both groups qualify, so you just pick one and you're ready to go.
Thank you. And then another question from Nancy. How does contract employees work with the HUBZone?
Contract employees such as temp employees, for example, if they're temp employees or contract employees for a specific contract, they do not qualify because they really don't belong to the business for the long term, for the purposes of full-time, in other words. So if you're going to qualify or you're going to go for the HUBZone, you want to make sure you use full-time employees for the qualification of this, only because remember that 35% of your employees must be within that HUBZone. Your employee average will always fluctuate. So this contract, you have 100 employees, 35 of which are in a HUBZone. However, the contract is over, you're back down to normal full-time employees, and only 2 of them qualify for the HUBZone, but your number of employees went down from 100 down to 50. Do you still qualify? The answer is no. So it's very, very difficult if you're going to use contract employees. We don't recommend it, only because at this moment you'll be HUBZone, at this moment you will not, and it's going to be very, very troublesome for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. That looks like it is it for the questions that I had pending. So I will go ahead and share my screen, just a couple wrap-up slides. If anybody has any final questions, feel free to pop them into the chat while I'm getting through these last couple slides. Okay, well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Victor, for today's session. Just a quick reminder to everybody, a full recording will be emailed to all registered attendees post-webinar. So expect that in your inbox by end of day today, if there's any parts that you'd like to revisit or rewatch there. And thank you again to Mission Community for co-hosting with us. Our organization's information, as well as their organizations, is up on the screen now and will also be shared in that post-event email. Thank you so much for everyone attending today. Looks like we have one final question. Small business owner, I'd like to get some advice. Okay, Claudia, feel free to reach out to us or Mission Community. We're both here to support you. And we are happy to send all of the contact information for SBA as well as Victor in that as well. And we're happy to support you however we can. But other than that, thank you so much to everyone for attending today. Thank you again, Victor, for taking the time, and have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.